Sir, the whole idea behind the cooperative movement has appealed to me for a large number of years. Even though I was not personally connected with it, I was attracted by the philosophy underlying it, the social purpose, the way it seemed to steer between various extreme courses of action which I did not wholly approve of. For many years, we in India were engaged in the struggle for freedom. To begin with, it took the shape primarily of political freedom, but even as it developed, it became obvious that political freedom by itself was not enough. It had to have a social content. It had to aim at economic freedom. In the ideological sphere, there have been great controversies, great movements, and I am not going into that question. But one thing seems to have been progressively accepted and admitted by large numbers of people that a purely acquisitive tendencies in society is not good enough under modern conditions. It has tended to bring about equality of opportunity, not in an absolute sense, but broadly speaking, to reduce the tremendous disparities which exist among various groups. Well, in doing so, the state has naturally to intervene. Sometimes that intervention may have gone a little too far, according to the opinion of some people, and even invaded the freedom of the individual a bit too much. No individual has, of course, absolute freedom. But if we value individual freedom, as many of us do, how are we to find a balance between preserving that individual freedom and at the same time getting away from the clutches of an acquisitive society? The cooperative movement seems to offer a philosophy, a method of approach which would aim at this kind of social pattern. Naturally, many of us are attracted to that idea. Many years ago, our great national organization, the Indian National Congress, accepted for its objective the creed of a cooperative commonwealth for India. We were often asked what that meant, and it was not particularly easy to define it. Of course, I could speak at length about the general purposes and the general ideas lying behind it, but to define it precisely was rather difficult. That did not mean that the idea was a weak one. In fact, it simply meant that the idea was not a rigid one that could easily be put within the four corners of a definition. It was nevertheless a good idea. I have mentioned this to you just to indicate how our minds turned to this cooperative in shaping the organization of the state itself, and this too not in the past few years, but for some 20 or 30 years or even more. We came to that in our search for a social ideal that would satisfy various urges that we had. The initial urge, of course, was the urge of political freedom. Another was of social advance and social equality, of equal opportunity for people, and of removing class and caste distinctions which came in the way of that equality. You will remember that this has always been basic to our movement, to our thinking, and to our activity. And we wanted to do all this by peaceful action. Many countries have developed various philosophies of action, but no other country has laid stress on peaceful action to achieve revolutionary ends. Dear sirs, we thank you for your inquiry of yesterday's date. We appreciate your interest in the various services rendered by us and have pleasure to outline some of them. Besides the usual business of receiving deposits in the various accounts, namely current account, savings account, and fixed deposit account, of lending money in the shape of loans, overdrafts, cash credits, etc., we undertake a number of agency services on behalf of our customers, like collection of bills, coupons, dividend warrants. We have also arrangements for safe custody of valuables of our customers in small lockers in underground vaults. You may be also be interested in a special department of this bank started recently, where we entertain proposals for the bank's appointment as trustees, executors of wills, in view of the impersonal and impartial way in which a company is capable of working in these capacities, and the continuity of arrangement that it guarantees. This department will prove to be useful and popular. We are confident that you will be interested in some of the services mentioned above and specify them in your reply to enable us to supply detailed information regarding them. Further, we are observing the next week as the Customers Week. In this connection, we have organized a small exhibition and also a customer's service counter here. We shall be much obliged if you could pay a visit to our bank during one of these days. yours faithfully.